Welcome to Picayune, a place we call home. Picayune's a dynamic town. It's a great place to live, great place to work, and a great place to worship. We invite you here to come take a look for yourself and find out why we call Picayune home. Follow me. Step right in and see for yourself.
So let me first start off by saying this. My family is very private. We don't want to be bothered by any weirdos talking about coming on our property and hunting these creatures. Ever since we've had this encounter, we've realized that people just don't understand private property. So before I start, I want to be clear with you. Do not come to our property. And if you show up, you will be greeted by a shotgun. Now let me get started. We live in Picayune, Mississippi, and on our plot of land, we have 2 houses. 6 months ago, when it started to look like things were not going to go our way with this election and Beijing Biden was going to get elected, my family and I started to prepare for this upcoming economic collapse. So we bought an old school bus and placed it on the backside of our property. The plan was to use it for storage, and if we needed to hit the road and get away, we could drive off getting the hell out of Dodge with the majority of our survival supplies. We got the bus and went to work on it, fixing up the engine, putting bars on the windows, reinforcing the hood and the front panels, put a huge metal grill on the front. On the interior, we took out some of the seats and installed 2 triple bank metal toolboxes and welded these boxes to the floor. We also built storage cabinets, installed benches that we could use for beds. Then we started putting our storable foods inside the bus. Altogether, a year's supply worth of food. After that, the bus just sat there. Every now and then I would crank it up to make sure she was running, but for the most part, we felt secure and prepared for anything. Now, my son's house is about 200 yards away from mine, and the bus is closer to his house than mine. And all of the problems with these dog men started on a Saturday night. And my son was the first one to realize that we had a huge problem. He was outside laying on his roof looking up at the stars. Understand, we're out here in the country and there's no light pollution. So at night, it's beautiful. When our neighbor's dogs start to barking. Now, his house is right up the road, but when those dogs get into a tizzy, you can hear them as clear as day. So them dogs are barking, going crazy when he hears this howling sound. And the howling transforms into this loud guttural growl. And after that, the dogs go quiet. In fact, everything went quiet. He said that the howling sound was so loud that he knew something terrible was off in the woods. Terrified him so much that he climbed back into the upstairs window and went back inside. So that's how it all started, him hearing this howling sound. But keep in mind, I didn't know anything about that at the time. But the next night, I'm outside in the bus, under the dashboard, and I needed to change out some of the wires that went to the speedometer. When I hear what sounds like footsteps outside of the bus, imagine this. I'm laying down on my back, head under the dashboard. My knees are bent and open when I hear this growling sound, deep, long growl. Not like a dog growling. This was something else. So strong that it made my heart jump. I could feel fear rushing into my body. The bus starts to shake. Not like someone is pushing up against it with their hands, but like something is bumping it. You can hear the thud of whatever it was. Now I'm standing up trying to look out into the darkness. But the light is on inside of the bus. And you know how it is when it's dark outside and you're trying to look through a window, but you have a light on inside. It doesn't allow you to see beyond the window pane. And to complicate things even more, the switch that turned that light off, I had just unscrewed it from its socket and moved it under the dashboard because I needed to get past that to access the speedometer. Standing there, now I start to hear this scratching sound like claws are scratching on the side of the bus. But looking out, I still can't see. Thinking to myself, okay, whoever's outside of this bus can see me, but I can't see them. So I fall to the floor, crawl over to the dashboard, and frantically search for that switch, turning the light off. Something about being there in that darkness made me feel safe. Standing up, looking outside, you could see, but it wasn't exactly clear because of the metal mesh that we had put over the windows. Moving closer to the window, face up against the glass, looking out the left side of the bus. But when I turned and looked out of the windows on the right side of the bus, I had to look twice. Because at first, it looked like there was a man standing there about 35 yards away from me. But then it dawned on me, this dude is big. You see, the clouds were covering the light from the moon. So now my mind is racing, thinking, who the hell is this on my property around in the middle of the night? My son would never, ever under any circumstances play a prank on me like this. And the only logical conclusion my mind could come to was that it was a thief. Someone had stolen some tools from my neighbor's property right up the road about a week ago. Fear now turning into anger, I begin to pat my pocket, looking for my keys so I can open those metal cabinets, grab one of my shotguns, and confront whoever the hell this was on my property. But after patting my front and back pockets, I realized that the only thing I have on me are the keys to the bus and my cell phone. Now imagine this. I briefly take my eyes off what I thought was a person at the time to dial my son on the cell phone. But when I look back up, the clouds have moved, no longer obscuring the light from the moon. And that's when I first see it. Black and gray, every bit of 8 feet tall, standing on 2 legs, a wolf. And I will never, ever forget those eyes or what happened next. It's standing there looking at me, scratching its chest. Long claws, hands like a freaking raccoon, almost as if it was waiting for me to see it. Then this bastard charges the bus. I mean, running on 2 legs, charges the bus, gets right up on the window and stops on a freaking dime. Its face pressed against the window, growling at me. I thought I was going to die. My heart tightened up inside of my chest, making me think that I was about to have a heart attack. So now I'm back on the floor, fumbling around with my cell phone, trying to call my son, and it's growling, this long, deep growl. So strong that the metal floor of the bus is literally vibrating. The first phone call goes through to my son and he sends me to voicemail. The second phone call goes through to my son and he sends me to voicemail. The third phone call he finally picks up, and I know he had to be thinking to himself, my dad is losing his freaking mind, because I screamed to him, son, get your gun and get on the roof right now. He's trying to ask me questions and I'm like, get on the roof and look at the bus through your scope right now. On speakerphone, you can hear him unlocking his gun safe and scrambling around the house, the window open and him saying, okay, I'm outside, what's going on? Then I hear him say, what the f is that? The phone drops and you can hear the sound of it sliding on the shingles. Him picking it back up and saying, where are you? Where are you, Dad? I'm on the bus. And then the next words that came out of his mouth utterly terrified me. He said, what are those things? Those things. And it was in that moment that the realization set into me that there was more than one of these creatures outside of the bus. Now I'm panicking, frantically screaming, shoot, son, shoot, please shoot. I'm going to the back of the bus by the toolbox. Just shoot them. A few seconds later, I hear the first shot and the impact of the bullet hitting this monster's flesh. The phone still on the floor towards the front of the bus. I hear him fire. And then simultaneously, I hear his voice both coming through the cell phone and through the window saying, Dad, they're gone. They're leaving. Get out of there. Get out of there. But I was scared. And I don't know if you can relate to this. Have you ever been so afraid that you can't move? That's how afraid I was. And that's how my first encounter with these creatures ended. Me, terrified, laying flat on the floor behind the toolboxes on our bus. And I didn't get off that bus until my son and my neighbor came there to get me. Now, as I sit here telling you the story, I would like to say to you that after this incident, it was all good. But it wasn't. Over the next few days, I got absolutely no sleep, and the little sleep I did get was filled with nightmares. Then mentally, something strange started to happen to me. As my mind could not wrap itself around what I experienced, I started going into denial. And that denial of the reality of what I experienced made me feel as if I was going crazy. But it was my son, my dear son, who kept me grounded, saying, "Dad, there is no way that you can try and shove this under the rug. We both saw what we saw, and we need to figure out a way to deal with it."